Good evening. Okay, we're going to get going in just a couple minutes. Hi, my name's Tracy Craig. I'll be moderating tonight's meeting. I want to thank all of you for coming. I also would like to, right up front, apologize for some of the miscommunication. I think there was different times that went out when we were starting, different dates when we were having the meetings. Lots of lessons learned, so we'll do better next time. I always say don't listen to my words, watch what I do, so next time I'll make sure that we coordinate our invitations with information that's going out from the community to the community, and that we do a better job of making sure that those dates and times are right. We were going to start our meeting at 5 o'clock. However, because everybody is here, it seems like we're going to start it at 4:30. We have a short presentation followed by questions and answers. If people do come to hear the presentation at 5 o'clock, we will stay late and do it again, and maybe even better the second time. So thank you so thank you so much for putting up with that. I know that was not the greatest start. Yes, I have a question. Of course, yes. My name is Tracy Craig. I own a small firm called Craig Communications. We specialize in doing communications work for environmental projects. That's all we work on. We work on some of the largest soil vapor projects in California. And so well-versed in the environmental industry and also in making technical information understandable to the lay public. But I will say, in my 30 years of doing business, I always know that the public, when incentivized, understands a heck of a lot more than a lot of people give them credit for a lot of times. So just want to put that out. I'm not liking this. Hang on. Thank you. Let's try that one. Yeah, it's better. I'm going to ask our panel to come up here, I think. Coming up. So I'm going to just do a couple housekeeping things first. I don't know if everybody knows where the restroom is, always important. Out this door, this far exit door, right across there's men's and women's facilities. Can you all hear me in the back, or do you want to come up front? You can hear me. Okay, great. Then we'll leave it at that. So we have a short presentation today, and then we'll follow that with questions and answers. I think everybody knows we're here to discuss the former Titan 1A missile facility site, to give you an update on what's going on. I think your last meeting was a little under a year ago, and I just want to set the expectation right now. Not all that much has changed from the outside. So if you think you're going to come in here that there's a super cleanup plan tonight, that's not going to happen. But what you are going to hear is what's been going on behind the scenes. And the Army Corps has been working hard to make this project move more quickly. One of the things that they've done is they've hired a new environmental consultant that has a lot of experience cleaning up federal facilities, and so they think that will streamline this process. They're also starting a restoration advisory board. That board is a board that interfaces with the Army on behalf of the community and provides advice and input, so it's an advisory board, on how environmental cleanup should be addressed, what's important to the community, and what your priorities are. So they consider that as part of that. The establishment of a RAB is in direct response to the community's request for more transparency and more collaboration. And I just also want to say, we all know the US government, God bless them, does not go as fast as we would like. So I just want to set that expectation up front. I know people would like to see this project moving a bit faster than it is. However, things move at the speed that they move, so I want people to be aware of that. So I am going to, if you would change the next slide, and I want to make sure that our panel knows, we have got to tell the fellow in the back to change the slides every time. Every time that you want to move your slide forward. So here's our agenda. Originally, we're going to have the open house from 4 to 5, but now we're going to just have it from 4 to 4:30. We'll stay afterwards till 6 o'clock and answer any questions. We have the short presentation. We'll go through that. Then we go through all of those items. I do not need to read them to you. And then we'll have followed by questions and answers. I'll be moderating the question and answer session. I am a tough moderator. I'm going to tell you that right now. If we get the same question 4 times, I'm going to say asked and answered and moved on, because I value everybody's time, and I want to get you in and out of here in a timely fashion tonight, especially before it starts raining harder. So with that, any questions for me? No. Okay, I'm going to introduce our panel, but first of all, I want to say we have a few elected officials in the audience, and so I want to go ahead and acknowledge their presence, and then I'll introduce our panel. So, let's see here. First and foremost, we have Ed Heidig, Senior Field Representative with Congressman Kiley. I think a lot of you know Ed. Okay. And then we also had Erlinda Baumann was here from Senator Nilo's office, and I just want to say it was her birthday and she had plans, so she was here but then had to leave, and we said it was okay if she wanted to go celebrate her, what was she like? She was like 29, her 29th birthday. And then we also have, let me see here, Megan Schultz with Assemblyman Joe Patterson's office. Megan. And then I think you probably know these other folks too. We have Bill Lorenstein, a council member, sitting right up front. And then I hear the tall man in the back, City Manager Sean Scully. There he is. Okay. So those are the folks that are representing you. And then I would like to also acknowledge that we have some folks in the audience from the Water Board. So I know that we have Chris Flowers, I believe. Yes? Chris is back there. Chris, do you have anybody else here I can? Okay, so we have J.J. Baum, who is the Assistant Executive Office. We have Chris Flowers. He's the Site Cleanup Program Manager. I believe we have Kristen Shelton, who's a Senior Engineer. And we have Kyle Cockerham, who is the Engineer, Geologist, and Case Manager. So he's the one that is coordinating with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I'd like to thank all of you folks for coming out and participating. Okay, and now I would like to introduce our board. So going down the line, we have, hold on, I've got to change my sheet here, make sure I get everybody's name right. I think we'll just go down, right? So I'm just going to do it from this way. So from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, we have Tim Crumpet, who's the project manager. Do you all know Tim? You've met him before? Okay. Tim. And then here we have, well, let me go through the Army first. So then we also have Tyler Stalker, who's the Public Affairs Manager. And then we have, hold on, Felix Young, who's the Elected Official Liaison. And then finally, we have Harvey Jones, who will be the RAB Coordinator. So that's the Restoration Advisory Board. So if you're interested in that, you can certainly talk with Harvey afterwards if you're interested in participating. And then we have the new contractors, which is Parsons. And with Parsons, we have, hold on, I want to make sure I get all this right, Carrie Ross, I should know that. And then we also have, Matt, why didn't I introduce you? I am so sorry. Forgive me. You know what? I think we only have you up from Parsons, right? No, I know that. I was saying you're the only one from Parsons. Well, next time, call me. So forgive me. We have Matt Morlat, who's the technical manager with the Army Corps of Engineers, and he's right there. Yeah, give him a round of applause because I left him off. And he does all the work. Worse yet. Okay, so he's an important man up here. Couple of things. We're saving times for questions and answers. If you're uncomfortable asking a question in public, and we'd like you to come up here. This is being recorded, so we'd like you to come up here and speak your question very clearly. If you're uncomfortable, there's fact sheets out here, and we have an email, and you can email any questions that you have, and we will go ahead and email answers out to people within a week or so. So just wanted to give you that option if you're not a person that likes to speak in public. And I think that is enough from me. I would like to ask you to save your questions, unless, of course, they're clarifying questions, till the end of the presentation. If you absolutely can't save it, just raise your hand. Sarah over here will bring you a microphone. We are going to ask any questions be spoken into a microphone so that we can have a clear recording of this meeting. And that's twofold, so that we have a clear understanding of what happened in people's areas of interest, and also so people that watch this tape at a later date, if they do, know exactly what went on. And I think that is all for me. Yes? Oh, Sarah can bring you one, the little the fact sheets. They were at the front desk, and I'm happy to bring you one. And I think that's the last thing I'd like to say. If you came in and you signed in, that's great. We'd like to be able to send you email updates about what's going on. If you didn't, you can sign in on your way out, or you can use the fact sheet and send us your email, and we're happy to add you to the list. We will not use your email for anything else than to send information out about this project. So rest assured, it won't be going out to a lot of folks. And I think that is all and quite enough from me, so I'm going to turn this over to Tim to start our presentation. And if you would move it to the next slide, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. So good afternoon. It was good to see some familiar faces out there. If you're not familiar with me, Tim Crummett with the Army Corps of Engineers, Sacramento District. I'm your project manager for this site, and this it's an intercontinental ballistic missile facility put in by Beale Air Force Base, actually, who used the Army Corps of Engineers to put this site in back in 1963, and it was dismantled in 1968. So the whole missile silo complex the majority of it is underground. If you walk out there today, you can see the tops of the missile silos, the big hinged concrete structures that are tons and tons to open up. Underneath those are 160-foot deep missile silos. Most of the facility, which is underground, is now full of groundwater. Groundwater has come up. In fact, you can go to some of the vents and look down and see the water down in those access points. So the reason we're here today, trichloroethylene, TCE, it's in the groundwater at this facility. It's made its way from the surface down into the water that is underneath the ground, groundwater. So what groundwater is it fills the little tiny minuscule spaces in between the sediment and the clay, and it comes to rest on the impermeable granitic layer that you all have under here in this area. Like surface water, groundwater moves. Groundwater moves slowly, and this solvent that has got down into the groundwater has moved slowly over the decades. It doesn't move at the same pace as groundwater, but it does move, and that's what we've been monitoring and looking at over a long time now. So why do you care about TCE? Short term, long term, if you're exposed to TCE, it can affect your health in different ways. I encourage you to do some internet research on it. If you want to talk to a real expert on the effects of trichloroethylene and exposure pathways and all this things that I can't talk about that much, we have two toxicologists that we've brought with us today. They're two Marks. So Mark and Mark, would you guys mind raising your hand? They're all the way in the back. So if you would like to talk to them afterwards, specifically if you have some toxicology questions about trichloroethylene, they are experts.
Can you just explain what a toxicologist is for some of us that don't know?
Experts in, I probably even get this wrong. The effects, what the effects of contaminants or chemicals could have on the human body. If you're wondering what TCE was, if you haven't done your Google search on it, in the past it was much more common, not so much today, thankfully, especially in the state of California. You could find it in your house, your carpet cleaner, in your garage, perhaps your brake cleaners most likely would have TCE in it, dryer sheets, the old typewriters, the correction fluid, that correction tape, it contained TCE. So much less common today, but it was a common product for a long time. So this missile facility, that was in operation for 3 years, and we can go to the next slide. Thankfully, a missile was never launched from this site, but what they did do is routine getting ready to launch. So this underground crew would routinely have extensive training, and part of this was filling up these ICBMs with liquid oxygen and what it would take to launch these missiles once they were raised above the ground. Liquid oxygen is extremely volatile, and they needed to keep these lines clear that transported this LOX, L-O-X, liquid oxygen. Thus comes in this solvent. The best solvent you can get is TCE, and they use TCE pretty extensively from what we know to clean these lines. Thus, it got into the soil and down to the groundwater, and here we are today.
I think you need a slide forwarded, right? Can you forward the slide?
No, we're just going through the history right now.
Oh, you are going
Yep.
through the history. Forgive
That
me.
was part of the history of how the in the operation, how it got there. So in 1991, so this is a while after it closed down, decades after, TCE was detected in the groundwater. In 1994, the Army Corps of Engineers, we received our authorization to begin investigating the site and answering the question, okay, we know it's there, how bad is it? And how we do this is through a program, a very specific program called Formerly Used Defense Sites. It's FUDS. So you might hear that term if you talk to any of us. And the FUDS program sets up the procedure, it sets up barriers, it sets up how we do this. It's our guidance. We follow a very set process in how we do it. It's our legal authority, and it's also our funding. So that's how to get into this FUDS program was very important, and it's how we will reach completion of this project. So in 2001, we're marching down the road, conducted some small scale groundwater extractions. We did treatments, put in a treatment trench where we pumped a lot of water out of it. We removed 10 pounds of TCE, which is pretty significant. It doesn't take too much to contaminate that groundwater, so 10 pounds is a pretty good amount. In 2002, we did put in some extraction tests, did some tests on how it's going to work in the soil, performed 2 bench scale tests. Boy, we're moving ahead, everything's going great. We get to the feasibility study, and we're looking at different alternatives, how we're going to clean up the site, and everything came to a screeching halt. There was a question on, was all of this contamination Department of Defense? And we're not authorized to clean up contamination, that's not ours. It got shifted over to attorneys, and the attorneys went around this is out of our purview. I don't really know what goes on over in that special black box, but it took 9 years. 9 years later, they came back and said, no, it's all yours. And there we go. We kind of start the process over again, and thus, it's a horrible perception. I understand why people are like, why is this taking so ridiculously long? But that's our part of our history, and here we are. We're to make the best of it and hopefully move forward with no more stops in the way. So 2018, we kind of restarted that process, and part of that means we had to kind of go back, and it'd been a while. So we installed 19 new monitoring wells, put in 24 soil vapor probes to understand the nature and extent of what was there. And then we come to our present day, where I think it was at the end of May, where we were in this room and talked to a lot of you and informed you of what was going on. Since then, we have formed a RAB, and a big thing, I know it doesn't sound like a big thing, but any of you who have ever done federal contracts and lived in that acquisition world, it's not a small task to sometimes award a contract, and we got a contractor on board, which was a great celebration for us. And with that, this contractor that was awarded, Parsons, we're going to finish the remedial investigation and go into a feasibility study, do a proposed plan, and finish the record of decision. And we'll get to that schedule, and there's some boards out there too. But that leads me to introduce Carrie, which is with Parsons, so she'll take it from here. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Tim. Excited to be here. Thanks for having us. My name is Carrie Ross. I'm a professional environmental engineer with Parsons Corporation. It's a large business. We have a great amount of resources and expertise. I have a team of engineers, geologists, scientists that are supporting me and our group and getting this moving and making some progress here. So go to the next slide, just kind of run through the cleanup process and what steps we have ahead of us. So this is, as Tim mentioned, a FUD project which must proceed in accordance with the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act, known as CERCLA. We're also working as part of the Defense Environmental Restoration Program and through the FUDS program policy. So shown here is just some of the key milestones in the CERCLA process. As Tim mentioned, we did complete the preliminary assessment and site inspection in 2018, which is where we collected data to understand if further action needs to be taken at this site. The results of that led into the current phase, which is the remedial investigation feasibility stage, which we're hoping to complete here in 2024. This will allow us to identify some data gaps, fill in those gaps, collect additional data, and then pull into the feasibility study. The feasibility study is a portion of the project where we'll look at various remedial actions that should be taken place to bring the project to closure. Once we go through that stage, we'll move into the proposed plan. The proposed plan is a portion of the project where we'll develop a document that's specific and guidance towards the public to let you guys understand what data we have and what the selected remedy is. During that process, you guys will have an opportunity to review that plan as well as historical documents, including the remedial investigation and feasibility study. We'll go through a 30-day public comment period where you guys will have a chance to comment on the plan and the selected remedy. We'll facilitate your comments and respond to those formally, as well as hold what we call a proposed plan public meeting, again, presenting the information and allowing your guys' feedback. We'll take all that information and put it together in a record of decision, which is scheduled to be completed in 2026. This is a document that will kind of bring it all together, put the remedy in a document form, and allow the government agencies to sign off on it and move forward into the remedial design. We'll be holding periodic public meetings like the one here today, and then the RAB meetings as well. But the proposed plan public meeting is a documented meeting that will actually be discussed, and the transcripts will be included in the record of decision. Okay, we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. So with all that, I want to just kind of focus in on what we have planned for 2024. As we know, we've talked about finalizing the selection of the RAB members and holding the first kickoff meeting in March, and we'll get into a little more details on that in some of the upcoming slides. But specific to my team, we're working to finalize the sampling work plan. This document is going to kind of show exactly what we're going to be doing out in the field in 2024, which will include the installation of 8 new soil vapor probes and 6 groundwater monitoring wells. Once these are installed, we'll go ahead and collect samples from these wells as well as the existing wells semi-annually this year. So twice this year we'll go out and collect groundwater and soil vapor samples. These samples will better define the lateral and vertical extent of contamination. The results of the sampling will be documented in a semi-annual sampling report, where we'll also include recommendations and ideas for future sampling. Again, this data will be used to develop also remedial action objectives, and which will define the conditions to achieve the response complete. So in addition to the semi-annual sampling, we're also going to be working on a treatability study work plan and conduct field investigation. The treatability study will be a pilot scale which will help us refine the evaluation of design. We'll be evaluating potential technologies and looking at the success in a small, like I say, pilot scale application, which will be then brought into the feasibility study. So basically we're looking at which technologies are best at the site to reach response complete. In addition to these tasks, we'll also be finalizing the remedial investigation report and feasibility study. Go ahead and move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we are proposing to install additional groundwater sampling wells. Those are shown here on the map. It may be hard for folks to see way in the back, but there are some maps also on the posters to take a look at. But yeah, so we are planning to install 6 additional groundwater monitoring wells. These are primarily on the western edge of the study area. The study area is shown in the red or the white, or I guess yellow outline. And the FUDS boundary is shown in red, as you can see here. We can move on to the next slide. So we're also planning to install 8 soil vapor sampling locations. These are shown in the red triangles, again to the western boundary of the study area. Again, these will help us delineate the vertical and horizontal extent of the TCE in the soil vapor. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So I know I've kind of walked through all these tasks, but just want to kind of show you at the different dates that we are planning to achieve the various activities shown here. The public meeting today, here we sit in January 2024. The RAB meeting's going to kick off in March 2024. And then, as I mentioned, finalizing that sampling work plan in April. Currently, that document is being finalized by the Army Corps, and we're going to be submitting it to the Water Board here within the next week or two. And then quickly in May, we plan to go ahead and install those soil vapor probes, the groundwater monitoring wells, and begin collecting the semi-annual samples. Quickly after that, we'll prepare the semi-annual sampling report, and concurrently, we'll be finalizing the remedial investigation report, also finalizing that treatability study work plan in September, and then coming around to collect the second semi-annual event in October. So we're planning for a public meeting towards the end of the year in December. This is again in addition to the RAB meetings we'll be conducting quarterly. But this public meeting will be similar to this setup where we'll have the poster boards. It'll be an opportunity for folks to see what we've done over the year, ask questions, and we can present some results at that time. So as you can see, we have a lot planned for 2024. We're excited to get out and get started. So yeah, looking forward to coming back in December and letting you know what we've come up with and where we're at.
And then let's move to the next slide, please.
Great. Well, I'm going to pass it over to Felix, who's going to walk us through the public involvement outreach.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Let me do this. Is this better? No? Okay.
You need to take the mask off.
Okay, is this better? Great, fantastic. So one of the key things that we talked about early on when Tracy kicked us off and Tim was talking about this project was the importance of the community's involvement. We want to make sure that there are multiple ways for the public to be engaged in this at your comfort level and also in a way that allows you to hear from us and to be informed about what's happening with the project and then provide your comments as well. So what we're trying to do here is to provide a range of options. We have, for example, created a website that we will talk about a little bit later. I will reiterate the website link for everybody. We also talked about the Restoration Advisory Board, which is very important for the rest of this year when we start the process in March. There are also going to be press releases, public meetings, and also, as you heard from part of the presentation, as we produce different deliverables, we are also going to provide public comment. We're going to make sure the documents are posted. So again, the community has different ways to reach us, to hear what we're doing, read what we have done, and then also provide us with your comments and feedback. Next slide, please. We know this, that we also recognize the sense of urgency and the sense of importance for everybody in this community. We know that many of you wanted this to be your forever home, your retirement paradise, and yeah, we want to make sure that we clean this up and get this done quickly, and also involve you in the process. So one of the key things that we're going to start doing is this Restoration Advisory Board. We received your applications last year, and we're in the process of finalizing the selections for the committee. Up to 15 members will be part of this Restoration Advisory Board. It's not just the Army Corps of Engineers who is picking the participants on the board. The Central Valley Water Quality Control Board is part of the process, as well as the Sun City Community Lincoln Hills Community Association staff are also part of this process as well. Our key criteria is to make sure that the membership reflects the diversity and range of the residents in this area. So we want to have as broad and as comprehensive a cross-section as possible. Now, the other key thing I want to emphasize is even if you are not part of the 15-member board, you are still able to come to all of the upcoming RAP meetings. Those are public meetings, those are not closed-door processes, and it allows you to listen to what exactly the RAP is doing. The additional function and value add of the RAP is that those community members, as part of the RAP, can also take information back to you when you are not available for a RAP meeting, for example, and these meetings will happen on a quarterly basis. Next slide, please. Actually, before we go on to the next slide here, we'll just say that the first meeting for the RAP, we're aiming for March 2024. So less than 2 months from now, we should be holding the first RAP meeting for the community. And then finally, we also want to make sure that you're aware of the different ways you can continue to find information, find out information. There's a website called www.titan1acleanup.com. Titan1acleanup.com. That will take you right to the Army Corps of Engineers website about this project. It has all of our project fact sheets. It has frequently asked questions. Our quarterly data monitoring reports are there as well. They're posted for everyone to see. And of course, when we have additional news to share, we'll be doing that through that website too. We also have an email distribution list that Tracy talked about earlier at the beginning of this presentation. If you want to share your email with us, we'll love to keep you in touch through email as well. Here on this slide, we have also provided information for our Public Affairs Office. I'm actually sitting next to our Acting Public Affairs Office Chief, Tyler Stalker. Tyler is the one who has already spoken to many of you. He is the one who created the website, helped us with all the content on the website, and he is available to answer questions. And I don't know about you, I don't do QR codes. Any restaurant that wants me to do a QR code to get their menus lose my business, but there's a QR code for those of you who are a little bit more savvy than I am. So we also have a QR code there.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
I think that concludes our presentation, so I'm going to open this up for questions and answers. First, though, I would like to introduce, you actually have a group here, the Titan 1A Missile Site Environmental Contamination and Remediation Committee, a group of community members that have been working for quite some time to get to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, provide them with accurate information, let them know what's going on. So, and I'm just wondering if you and your group can stand up so people can recognize you. So you already have community advocates, and they've been working tirelessly. So I'd like to, I'd like to just recognize them. So if you're not comfortable with talking with one of us, I know that they would all be welcome, would welcome your questions as well and are working tirelessly on your behalf. Ann, do you have anything that you want to say first to your community? Did you just want to address them? Please do.
Thank you, Tracy. And I want to say thank you to the Corps and to the Water Board and all of you all for coming tonight. Thank you so much. We're trying to work together to make sure that this site is completely cleaned up, and it's going to take you all as well as the RAB, the Corps, and the Water Board. So thank you, Tracy.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you. Okay, and then I'd like to open this up for questions. We do have a microphone up here. I would like to give people plenty of time to actually walk up to that. I know it's kind of tight quarters here. So if you'd like to just, you could either get in line or I could just do popcorn. You can raise your hand and we can bring a microphone to you. What are you most comfortable with? Raising your hand and bringing a microphone? Raise your hand and let me know if you like that idea. Okay, or going up to the podium and lining up. Both? That's a little, the logistics have boggled my mind, both. Let's have you raise your hand and I'll just number you off and we'll bring a microphone. Let's see if that works. I think that's the easiest way to do this. So yes, first, we've got to remember your numbers though. 1, 2, 3, in the back, 4 in the blue, and in the magenta? Heliotrope, I don't know that color. 5. I'm going to stop at 5, 6, and 7 in the blue shirt, and 8, the navy. I'm going to stop at 8 because that's where I'm going to remember to. And I'm going to go ahead, number 1. Would you please bring the microphone to her, Sarah? Thank you.
Testing. Hi, thank you so much. I'm Christina Faria, and I am Chief of Staff for Placer County Supervisor Shanti Landon. She represents the City of Lincoln at the county level, so thank you all so much for being here and providing this information. I did have a quick question on one of the slides about where the monitoring wells are, the proposed monitoring wells. There were some, they had different color stars, and one of them indicated that it was perhaps like a nested, maybe it had to do with the positioning of the wells. I've seen several of the maps of the wells, but I hadn't seen that before. I was wondering if you could maybe just elaborate on what the monitoring wells and the nested and what that means.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think actually probably that's going to be our technical. Matt, see, it's a good thing we introduced him. Shantae, I also want to say I'm sorry I did not introduce you as here when I was introducing all the electeds, and I want to make sure that you recognize she's here as well. Okay, Matt.
Yeah, the nested well that you noticed is going to be taking samples from 2 different elevations. So we'll have a sample from 5 feet below ground surface and one that's deeper, closer to the water table. So it's the first nested well that we're installing out there, but it'll just give us 2 different data points. So we'll be able to see shallow soil gas and a deeper soil gas from that probe.
So it's giving you more data to make decisions off of.
Correct, yep.
Okay, all right, number 2.
Hi, Nancy Cole. I'm a resident.
Hi, Nicole.
I have one quick question and another one. Sorry, I don't remember your names, but you mentioned that the testing would happen semi-annually, and someone over here said quarterly. So I'd like to get a more stable answer on that. And then the second part, I'd like to know more about the water. I keep hearing about the water that's in these silos. I don't know whether the water, it's groundwater, you said, whether it comes up from the bottom or it comes in with rain from the top, but it seems to me it would be the most contaminated area of anything, and I'm wondering, is that all gonna just stay in there, or does it percolate anyway, or what happens with all that water that's in there?
Okay, so first question, how often are you actually doing testing, and what kind of testing are you doing?
Yeah, I can take that one. My name is Carrie Ross. So yeah, for the groundwater and soil vapor sampling, that will be semi-annual, so twice a year. I think the quarterly may have been the reference to the RAB meetings, which will be held quarterly.
And then the next question was actually that what is in the silos, and is that water that's filling up the silos heavily contaminated?
Well, we don't have back when the TC was first discovered, we've got authorization to do the cleanup or to do the investigation. We did a whole bunch of sampling around the silos, around the seal chambers, around likely places that TCE could have been used during the operations. And what we focused in is this plume that we have here. We have monitoring wells around the silos right now. They were part of the quarterly sampling from 2019 to 2022. There's no evidence that there's a significant TCE up there around the silos. What we know about and what we found is to the south of the site.
So can I just ask a follow-up question on that? So will you be eventually testing the water in the silos as part of this overall addressing the site?
I can take that. Yeah, we won't specifically test the water in the silos because we test the water between where the contamination is and the silos, and it's not there. And to answer your question, maybe I can help you out with, what's this water doing in the silos? Our groundwater there is very shallow, so that imagine putting a pool in your backyard and you dig a 20-foot hole, and all of a sudden you have 3 feet of water at the bottom of that hole. That's groundwater. That's the level groundwater is at, and that's the case with the silos. It's just you dig a hole and you're going to hit groundwater, and that's what happened with. So it's not so much filling up by rainwater and just sitting there. That's just where the water table is, and it moves through like groundwater does. So I don't know if that helps to give you a concept of what's that water doing in there, and what are you going to do with it? Why don't you take it out? Well, it's like, well, it's a natural process of why it's there.
Got it. Okay. Number 3.
I'm Dave Bernstein, a resident. I was just wondering, are there other sites around the country that have had this issue, and how does it ultimately get resolved? What would the options be to clean it up?
Yeah, you're correct. There's sites across the U.S. Like I said, Parsons, we help remediate a lot of these different sites. And we go through that same process that I mentioned and walk through. Each of the sites go through.
Hold your microphone by your chin, like this, right here. There you go.
Each of those sites go through the same process that I walked through. So that's why the circular process is such a great, process, because it's standardized and you do the same thing for every site, and no site really gets a special treatment.
I would also just
standards.
add to that environmental regulations are always changing, right? So what was done historically when there weren't regulations, it's very different now that we have environmental regulations in place, that we understand what we did in the 40s, 50s is very different than our knowledge today about chemicals and the potential effects. And so part of that is that we're going back and addressing sites where nothing was done wrong at the time, it was completely legal, but we're addressing them to today's standards. So it's not just the US government, there's all kinds of private sites as well throughout the United States that are undergoing cleanup with regulatory oversight, in this case, the Water Board. Yes. Oh, we got to have that microphone, though, because we want to make sure people can hear your question.
To follow up, what are the different methods that are used once you say, hey, we got a problem? I mean, you digging up soil? Are you draining things? You putting in some of the kind of chemicals to counteract it? What are the options?
Exactly, yeah, exactly what you mentioned. Soil excavation is a common one. Pump and treat, where we pump the water out of the ground and treat it and put it back in. There's some injection technologies. So yeah, it depends, and that's what I mentioned on the treatability study is we're going to try to look at the contamination specific to this site and the best ways to clean it up and select it from those various technologies.
And then I would just add to that, that's why the Restoration Advisory Board is important, because as part of that proposed plan, they'll be looking what is the best way, studying various options, and looking at the best way to address this. And that is exactly where the community gets to have input, particularly through the Restoration Advisory Board. They get to advise, oh, we like that one, we're not so hot about that one. So it's important that you get involved in that aspect. Okay, number 4. Oh, Sarah's getting her workout tonight.
I'm coming.
Little hike, thank you. Tom Densler, also a resident. One of the questions I had was about the Placer County cleanup, the lead cleanup that's going to be going on the site, and whether there's any dependencies, particularly since part of the testing and activities will be in a similar area on, you know, getting done versus getting the testing done so the other activities can go forward.
Is that you, Matt, to take that?
I mean, yeah.
Can you
I can-
repeat that question just for everybody? There's a gnat up here.
Sorry.
That wasn't to me.
Go ahead, yeah, if you,
Sure, so the question is whether there's dependencies with the Placer County lead cleanup and soil removal that's going to be going on the site and the testing process that's critical to making the plans to go forward with the groundwater and the vapor work.
yeah, the county's cleanup won't impact our remediation of the TCE. If you look at the upper right, I don't know if it's hard to see the 3 silos. I mean, that mainly up there is where the county will be doing their cleanup, and it should not. We do not expect it to impact what we're doing.
Okay, good. Second question I had was I saw in one of the recent communications they were talking about Ingram Slough and the water flows that basically go along the Sun City boundary there from south to north. And I guess I'm wondering whether there was some question about we have kind of wildlife managed corridor areas, you know, to the south and to the north, and that new property that's being developed, which is in Village 1, nothing is designated, to my knowledge, about that area. So I didn't know whether there's things going on with City of Lincoln or anywhere else that will impact kind of the testing process and what may have to happen with kind of wildlife management in that corridor for Ingram Slough.
I don't know if I can specifically answer that, but part of this process and part of what we're doing here is we do a biological survey and canvass the entire area for endangered species and make sure we don't affect any of that. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or.
Yeah, I know that area is designated for future development, but I didn't know whether upon discovery of kind of all the stuff underground and all that, whether there's some rethinking of that going on to designate it as protected land, not for development through that area immediately next to Sun City. So.
Do we know answers? I don't think we quite know answers about development and prohibitions thereof, would we? I think the city manager might be able to address that. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So the short answer to the gentleman's question is no. There's one approved project, residential project, that's immediately to the south of where the old Titan missile site is. That project has been well documented in the media. It's called Hidden Hills. And they have project entitlements that were approved through consultation with some of the agency that's sitting right in front of me, the Water Board and the Army Corps of Engineers, such that if development occurs down there at some point in the future, there are a series of protective measures that they have to put in place to ensure that anybody that may live in an area that is tangentially affected is protected. But in terms of rezoning it to preserve, that's not a discussion that the city has been proposed or has considered at this time. Not saying we wouldn't, but there is a current and active project there currently.
Okay. Councilmember, did you want to say anything, or you? I noticed you standing up. No, just watching. Oh, you're just watching. Okay, great. Okay, next speaker. I think we're on 5, right? Thank you.
Hey, Tracy, before we continue with question number, Tracy?
Yes.
Before we continue question number 5, I just want to reflect on the conversation just happened. Because as you remember, Carrie was saying that there are formerly used defense sites that need to be cleaned up around the country. This is not the only one. There are standard laws, policies, and regulations that govern how we do these things. But the conversation that we were just having just now is a very good example of why the remedy, even the process is standard, the remedy is not cookie cutter. It has to take into account the area, the topography, the unique characteristics of this community and the area. And that's why, again, we want to emphasize we're not taking a cookie cutter approach, and that's also why it needs study, it needs all these different kind of action plans and investigations to figure out the best way to treat this particular site. So I just wanted to reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, number 5.
Yes, I'm Janet Tissue, and I am curious regarding the plume and its movement. Is there movement in the plume?
Okay, so, and I'd like to clarify, so the question is there is movement in the plume, and I think we're talking about a soil vapor plume? No, we're talking about groundwater plume. Groundwater plume. Okay, that's why I needed to clarify. So is there movement of the groundwater plume? Is the question how fast is it moving, where is it moving, and is it moved off-site? All of that. Okay.
Oh, so
Matt, that's you.
Yeah, the groundwater does move. Our previous investigations have documented the speed from anywhere like 0.3 to 10 feet per year, and our more recent data kind of concurs with that kind of rate. So there is some expansion of the plume happening over the years, and we have the data right now to show that the soil gas is not concern to any of the residents, and the soil gas is really how anyone would be exposed to TCE. So, is that
Okay. And then can you just clarify, I know that we put this in the fact sheet about drinking water here, because I got a question earlier about drinking water.
Yeah, the drinking water for all the houses part of Sun City is supplied from it's not supplied from the site. There's the city or county water that is supplying the residences. So exposure to TCE in the drinking water is not a concern for anyone living near the site.
Okay. So, okay. Number 6. Oh, wait, got to get the microphone. I told you I'm
My questions have been answered, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. 7.
I think 7, he might have stepped out, so we can
Okay.
come back to number
And
7.
then 8. I think 8 is the one that did my announcement with the booming voice, if I'm not mistaken.
You remember me.
I do remember, yeah, a voice like I've never heard.
I'm David Connor. I'm not sure this question was asked or not. I didn't get the answer, but it's very similar. The blue stuff down at the bottom, all those little streams and stuff, that's not groundwater. That's the creek. And on down on the far left side, it goes into a marsh, and then it goes underneath the Sun City Boulevard, and it forms our ponds. We have a pond down at the end. It feeds that, which we stock with fish. And it goes on clear across Highway 65. It's a big deal. I don't know how groundwater behaves, but does it ever go up? Could it contaminate that stream and move on out? I'm just wondering if we should be testing our ponds and perhaps that marsh to see if this is spreading on the surface.
I can take that. The nice thing about groundwater is it follows the laws of gravity. So you don't have water flowing uphill, and this TCE, has gone down, and once what we are concerned about and why we test the soil gas is that volatilization, and the gas in a separate phase will go up. But yeah, you're not going to get stream contamination on the surface from a groundwater plume underneath.
I guess we could have guessed that because the animals and the fish in there are really healthy and they're all over the place, so it's not bothering them.
If you see anything different, let us know.
Okay, I think that was our...
I think he just said that it is not necessary to test.
That is what he said, yes. So that was our last question, and now do we have more questions? I'm going to do again. I'm going to number you. And I started over there, so I'll start. 1 in the green shirt. And then 2 in the back with the mask on, and hi. And then who else? 3, 4, 5 with the green shirt on, council member 6, and another green, popular color tonight, 7. Okay, I'm going to stop at 7. So number 1 is over there, Sarah. No, Sarah, right over here in the,
I see.
yeah. And then maybe just to help, well, no.
Hello. So John Griffin, resident. I guess what's always kind of intrigued me is the yellow boundary. And I haven't really seen any, well, I saw one test well going up Oak Street towards the church parking lot from years ago, but I've never seen any testing anywhere but around in that area. And so really the heart of the question is, how confident or by what reasoning do we know that it's enclosed and has not gone to the west or gone to the north?
Okay, so how confident are you in the boundary, and how did you come up with that yellow boundary?
Well, I think the yellow boundary is just a construct of what we drew on there as far as so I mean, we can kind of ignore that for the purpose of answering the question. It's just where we're going to be doing work here moving forward. But I believe it's the 2004 remedial investigation, which would have a nice figure, I didn't bring it with me, sorry, showing a whole bunch of different data points we've collected from around the site. So we've taken soil gas, we've taken groundwater samples from near the silos, from near where the seal chambers would have gone, and we just haven't seen evidence of TCE from there. So we have done a lot of work, and all that work led us to focusing in on where we do find the TCE, which is what we've been showing on the figures and trying to fully delineate over these past couple of years.
Okay, so the question was, are those 2004 maps on the website?
Yeah, they should be in the 2004 continuing RI, which we'll make an action item to go look. But we do have a link on the website on the right-hand side for the admin record. So there's a number of documents there. It's like enough to fill up like 4 CD-ROMs worth. So there should be a lot of documents there that you can access and look. And we'll make a point to check, we'll make sure it's there. Okay.
Okay, number 2. You got to raise your hand high, and Sarah's going to run over to the back corner. Maybe I should cluster them more.
All right, I'm coming.
Can you fix the feedback before? That was painful for all.
Testing.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim Naylor, I'm a resident. It's an easy question. You keep mentioning the RAB meetings. Where are they going to be held here?
Oh, where are the RAB meetings going to be held?
That has not been determined yet.
Okay. And how would we be notified about them so we could attend them if we wanted to?
Yeah, there'll be, just like you're notified with this meeting, it'll be,
okay.
yeah, there'll be public announcements. We'll put it in the paper and we'll get to you. I hope they're held here, but I don't want to make that promise right now.
Yeah.
I would also say that if you signed up when you came in here,
Yeah.
We will email an announcement of each RAB meeting to anyone that signed up.
Okay, and then the other thing was the other committee that's up there. How did that get formed, and like what's the charter of the committee, and are they still taking people in the committee, or what? You know,
That's a question for Ann.
Yeah.
Oh, the other committee.
She's asking about how your committee was formed.
Yeah,
and
Ann.
A little bit history on that.
So Ann, why don't you just tell us how you formed your committee? And Ann actually has a flyer as well, I believe. So.
Whoa. Anyway, yes, I'm Ann Constantine Burge. I was out trespassing August 15th, 2022 on the site. No, I wasn't trespassing. They let me on there then. Now we're banned. But I went out there, saw lead on the silo doors, lead buckshot, and I questioned why, so my handy-dandy handheld computer led me to finding out about the lead contamination on the site, which led me to the TCE contamination, which led me to a coffee with the mayor, and then to the city council, and then to Carol Feineman with the News Messenger, and she wrote all the articles about the site. We decided we needed a group of people, and that was when we got Bill, Ken Long, where are you, Ken? There's Ken Long, Bill Lauritsen, and my husband Ray got finagled into it. And then Sean Scully, he's become one of our members of our group. But that's how we started. And we've been trying to get it cleaned up as well, and so whatever you all can do to help them and help us and help yourselves. Any other questions?
No, thank you, Ann. One of the things I liked about Ann that she told me is she intends to work very collaboratively with the Army Corps of Engineers, so I appreciate that, really do. Okay, I don't know what number we're on. I'm sorry. I think it's 3. Yes, I'm so glad you have a better memory than me. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Hi, I'm Bob Loomis. I'm a resident. One thing that has not been mentioned here at this meeting is another hazard that we're involved with. One might think that with these proper considerations that the only people that would be seriously health handicapped would be the residents that are near that site. There's another hazard, though, that every citizen of Sun City should be concerned about. If anyone is a casualty from this, or if it is publicly made available that there is a danger, then every resident's house value will drop. Even if you live down near 12 Bridges, real estate people or people interested in real estate will think, oh, there's a poison problem in Sun City, and so they won't buy any place here. So your real estate values are going to drop. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, yes.
I'm not sure how many of y'all were here for the March 8th panel forum that we had, but Lenny Siegel is a citizen activist who's very well aware of vapor intrusion, and he spoke about the value of homes, and he said more than likely the value of homes will not decrease. If they do, it will be very short-lived, because once the land is cleaned up, it will all be okay to be built. Think about what's gone on in Mountain View, San Francisco, and all of those areas. When I started this rabble-rousing with the Corps and the Water Board, I wanted to know why they ever wanted to build on it. Talking to Lenny, talking to other people, the Corps, the Water Board, convinced me we will build on these lots once they're cleaned up, once they start the process. If the values even go down, right now, we cannot show that any of the values have gone down, but maybe Sean can address that even better.
So I think actually I was just going to say, I think that my experience, and I've been in the industry for quite some time, is that actually property values have not gone down, and I work on a very large project in Newport Beach, and the property values actually haven't gone down there. Similar kind of community. I think that's asked and answered, so I'm going to move us on. If you're a realtor and you have questions, we have a fact sheet, and you can also contact the Corps. And I do recognize that that is the #1 concern of a lot of people, because your house is your biggest investment. To that end, the absolutely best thing you can do is address the situation, which is what I think we're doing here. Okay, number 4, thank you. Way in the back again.
Hello, Chris Flower with the Central Valley Water Board. I just have a quick question. Will these slides be made available to the public through their email addresses, or will they be available on your website? I'm familiar with the site just by being with the boards, and I have trouble seeing the figures, so might be helpful for others.
Yeah, they will be made available on the website probably by the end of the week.
Okay. Number 5 in the green. And Sarah's coming with the microphone.
L'Oreal Moody, resident. When the site is clean, will that mean that any proposed lake or existing lake on the property will also be clean? And is there any concern about seepage creeping back in and contaminating a proposed lake? Thank you.
So as part of the cleanup, typically what we'll do is once the remedy has been implemented, we'll usually end up doing some continued monitoring just to ensure, like you're saying, there isn't any kind of diffusion from the soil or other sources that may be unaware of. So it's typical that we'll continue to monitor to ensure that the water is clean and that we can move forward with any type of land use that we're anticipating.
Okay, number 6. Oh, number 6, council member in the front, Sarah.
Yeah, my concern, and I've been involved with this from the very beginning since I had a meeting with Sean about this, is you have this yellow line, which is your area of concern. And I'm not really sure that that's the entire extent of the contamination. I mean, it goes right up against Sun City, doesn't go in, and then it only goes down so far downhill. And I know we just approved a project in Hidden Hills, which is part of Village 1, and I'm just wondering, about that. Is that the extent? I mean, is the extent larger or what? I mean, because I have, we did approve the Hidden Hills development, but I'm not really sure that was really a good idea, and maybe we should have a moratorium on any kind of construction near that site.
Well, as you can see, toward the western edge of the study area, that's where we're proposing to install the additional groundwater monitoring wells and soil vapor sample probes. So just continuing to collect the data on the outskirts of the TCE plume there, we're giving ourselves the ability to continue to collect data and understand, how far out the contamination is gone. So, like I say, hopefully later this year, once we install those new wells and collect the data on the outskirts, we'll continue to, delineate the plume and understand whether we've truly within the study area or if there's potential for it to have gone outside.
Okay, number 7. Did that answer your question, council member?
I was just going to follow up that, while the red boundary, the FUDS, the actual land that was owned by the Department of Defense and is a real red boundary, this study area boundary is a little fluid. And if we get data that says our study area needs to change, we're going to consider that. This isn't like by definition, a legal boundary of any kind. This is our study area right now. And when we get data from these new probes, we'll have a chance to reassess if any changes need to happen. So the study area is the yellow perimeter.
Okay. Is there any consideration of actually going a little bit further west, actually into Sun City, and putting some testing wells? I mean, I'm sure you get some people would probably volunteer, to have those, and also south, because that's downhill from the FUD site.
At this time, we're going to put these probes to in the undeveloped land. We want to get data closer to the actual source where we can detect it, and if the data leads us to needing to step out further to find the extent, we're not opposed to that. But our plan right now is to look within the undeveloped land.
So I think the approach is typically a step out. So you'll go here. If you find something here, it's an iterative process. Then you would move out further. So I think that first process is taking the wells that Carrie was talking about and installing those and getting that first line of data, and then making an informed decision based on the results. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think we have 6, 7. Okay. And then we're going to do another round. So number 7 is over there in the green, of course. Thank you.
I recall reading one of the published articles, and it talked about whatever the date was on that the plume had, to some degree, moved under the Catholic Church. So on that map, where is the Catholic Church and where is the plume, either now or at your last known point of where it was?
So the church is right there off of Oak Tree Lane.
In the upper left.
Can you just say like upper left, lower left, so people know orient? The white patches.
Yeah, those white patches.
with the big asphalt parking lot. So it's kind of in the middle, upper left. Perfect, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that appears to be outside of the boundary area. So was the article, published article, incorrect, or is it the plume just not included in this map?
So at the time of the article, we had data from SV1, which, I mean, you won't be able to see that out in the figure, but that's directly south of the church parcel, and that's where we have an elevated detection of TCE. It's kind of the middle of that orange circle there. And so we were at a point where we didn't have any time left on our old contract to install soil vapor probes, but we do have that happening right now. So we have 3 more soil vapor probes planned. So I think when it was saying it's under the church, it's may have been more better to say that there's some evidence that it's on the church parcel, and we're going to get more data towards that. But as far as being like under the church, that's kind of a stretch. Yeah.
But you're going to be testing that as part of this new work,
We
correct?
have 3 new probes planned north of Crocker Knoll parcel, so 3 new soil vapor probes planned on the church parcel.
So would the largest portion of that plume be in the orange circle currently?
Yeah, yes, I mean, we think so. We have some data from the late 90s that makes us think it's somewhat in the area that we've drawn. And we have data south of the church parcel more recently to confirm that. And then this effort that we're doing here in this spring or summer, we'll have more data to the north to help us delineate how far onto the church parcel it goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, there's a dashed black line right
Matt,
there.
I'm going to ask you to
the
just repeat that for people that
so
don't.
the question was about where the Roman Catholic Church owns the parcel, and so there's a dashed black line. We do not currently have anything on the church property. We're right up close to it, and we plan to put some in there later this year. So.
All right, so I think we have
And
new
Trace,
questions.
oh, I'm sorry, just before we go
No
on,
problem.
we have question number 8 over here
Oh,
as well.
okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry to do this, but I don't want anybody to get nervous over property values. Just a quick thing, when my wife and I moved here, there was a huge contamination between Morgan Hill and Gilroy. All the groundwater had been affected by perchlorate. We lived there and we drank it because we were on a well. We drank it for 28 years. When we went to sell our house, the important thing is, and we sold it easily, and we got a ton for it, disclosure. I had a 2.5-page disclosure of the contamination, and the guy that bought it could care less. And but what I'm getting at is, if you go to sell your house and you live on that street I live on over there, I would certainly disclose that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, though, he's not an attorney, so just want to just want to make sure we know that. Okay, I'm going to move us forward, and so if you have questions, I'm going to try to keep you so Sarah's not running around like a crazy woman. You've had your hand up quite some time. The gentleman in the plaid shirt, the woman in the red sweater, the woman in the purple shirt with the blue jacket. That's 1, 2, 3, and let's just go for that, Sarah.
Hi, Tim Sands, a resident. Now, I just want to make sure it's my understanding that right now you are not doing any remediation. You are strictly in the testing phase.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so next to red sweater.
Hi, my name is Monica Mattern. I'm on Snapdragon, so right ground zero. So my question is regarding, again, that church, the over there by the church. One of the meetings that we went to, we were given a story about how the church, that was the, all the plumes and everything, that it was found there. But if they wanted to have any further testing, the church had to pay for it itself. The remediation, the church would have to pay for it itself.
No, no.
That's changed? Has that changed?
The church, no, the church won't have to pay for, unless it's contamination that's not, we will address all of our contamination.
The Army's going to be liable for the contamination that they're there, so that they would pay for both the investigation work, and then if something is found, it would be remediated as part of the larger plan to address the site, and that would be.
I might be jumping to a conclusion, but there was, that might have been brought up if the church would not have let us on their property. If the church would not let us on their property, then they're responsible for, it's their property, that maybe that's where that came from,
Yeah,
but
maybe.
no, if they, yeah.
Similar to that, yeah, similar.
But the church is cooperating, so know that the
Okay, so they're in
Army
on
Corps
this
will be
too.
responsible, yes.
They're knowing what's going on, because they're there. Okay, yeah, right, there you go. No holy water needed. Okay, thank you.
Of course. And then the woman in the back with the purple sweater on.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm a resident here. Soil vapor, is there any evidence that we have the vapor intrusion, soil vapor intrusion? And if there is there any immediate measure or any plan in place in any event, or should catastrophic event happens, and it's just not, I think my understanding is the media or the medium of contamination or the vehicle of contamination via water is different when it's air or vapor. So is there any plan in place should that happen? And is there any evidence that we could possibly have that?
Okay, so is
especially
soil
along the
vapor, is
line?
there any evidence that soil vapor intrusion is occurring? And if it is there a plan to address it? Is that your question, Ian? Okay, so really quickly, soil vapor intrusion is simply when vapors in soil, sometimes they like to move, they can travel up through a foundation in a building, they can impact the quality of indoor air. We're talking very, very, very minute levels of that, but nevertheless, there's new environmental screening levels, not that new, but so it's a new way that they found that vapors react, and so a lot of times people get concerned that is their indoor air impacted. So that's what vapor intrusion is, and then I'm going to let you answer, is there the potential for vapor intrusion to be occurring at this site since you do have some soil vapor issues?
Yeah, we have no evidence that there's any soil vapor, soil gas reaching the residents. We are putting in more soil gas monitors along that line to have more evidence or to have more data to look at for that. And I think you did ask the question, what if it does happen? There is a process in CERCLA, critical. We can if there is a pathway established where human health is at risk, we don't have to go through the long process. We can kind of stop it right there and address that issue and take action if needed.
So there's measures that you can take to quickly address it, and then there's longer term measures. The long-term cleanup would address it, but right now there's no evidence that that is occurring. We're in the study phases still. Okay, you're welcome. Other questions? Okay, yes, we have a taker.
Tom Brudding, resident. Thank you for coming, appreciate it. On October 24th, 2023, the California EPA wrote a memorandum letter to the Water Board, and Kyle Cockerham in particular. I was wondering what generated that letter and what is the reasoning for it?
Do you have any more details on this letter? I'm not familiar with it.
I don't think we know the letter that you're referring to.
The Water Board actually posted it.
What? Any more details? Sorry.
No, fine.
We'd have to get back to you. I don't want to put the Water Board on the spot right now.
Where did you get the letter? Is this from?
You know what? Let's do this. We don't know what the letter is, so maybe you can follow up with Matt.
I have a copy, if anyone
You do,
would like-
after
yeah.
the meeting, and then we're happy to chat with you about that.
Okay.
Okay, that would
Thank
be
you.
great. Thank you. I
Good.
appreciate that. I just want to be clear. We will stay here. We're here till 6, so we'll stay here after the meeting. We'll look at your letter. We'll answer any questions, and if anybody has any property-specific questions, we can address those as well. Again, we don't really know we're still investigating the site. Okay, other questions? Yes. Paula, right? Paula.
Tracy, just to clarify, you had indicated the two gentlemen.
You know what, Paula, we cannot hear
Oh,
you.
You had indicated that the two gentlemen in the back, could you raise your hands? You gentlemen, thank you, are to speak with regarding the CPE? Is that what it's called? The E, which is?
Regarding TCE, so TCE is the
TCE.
chemical that they're looking at right now, and we have 2 risk assessors in the back. So if you have any questions specific to your health or how these chemicals could potentially affect your health and at what levels, that's an important component, right? You can talk to either of these 2 gentlemen in the back.
That'd be great. That'd be great, because there are a few people on our Prunella court, which backs right up to it.
Okay.
That have
Thank you
issues.
for letting
Thank you.
people know that and reminding them. I appreciate that. Okay, I think that will conclude our meeting. I want to say one thing. First of all, I want to say thank you. It's always nice to have a good and civil dialogue, and we appreciate everybody showing up. I also want to say that I was reminded today that this open house format might not be the best for people our age that might not hear well when there's lots of noise. So we're going to take that into consideration when we plan the next meeting, and maybe we'll have some smaller meetings. Maybe we'll have an open house and another presentation, but we will be very, very clear what we're doing, and we'll make sure that all the information that goes out to the community is accurate to the greatest extent that we can. So I just wanted to say we heard you on that, and we greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to you, Tim, to say good night.
Yeah, just thank you again for coming. We do appreciate it, and we value the interaction with you, and we'll be out in the lobby. We'll stay here as long as you want if you want to have any more questions or talk to us, and please reach out at any time, and thank you again for your time tonight.
And I'd like to say give yourselves a hand. Thank you.